Welcome to the Fabulous Fifties and Beyond. I'm Jim Pollard, your co-host with my wife Jeanetta. Today we're going to be talking about being a volunteer in the Lourdes Hospice program of Western Kentucky. Our guests are Susan Mason and Nina Weston. You stay tuned and we'll be right back.
And he'd say, go with what you got. Start from where you are. Give it your best shot. Keep reaching for that star. Get in the race. Keep your own pace. Keep moving and never stop. Just go. Go with what you got.
I'm Jim Pollard, your co-host with my wife Jeanetta, and today we're going to be talking about volunteerism with the Lourdes Hospice program of Western Kentucky. Our guests are Susan Mason, volunteer coordinator for the Lourdes Hospice program, and Nina Weston, a volunteer. And this is one of the reasons that we've been doing this series of programs, is we want to encourage you to volunteer with the Lourdes Hospice program. Now you need to understand that being a volunteer doesn't just mean being one-on-one with somebody who's dying, but it can also mean working in the office, doing filing, answering the phone, calling someone and letting them know that there is somebody out there who does care about them, even though you might not have ever met them personally, but just to make a phone call and let them know that you're there and that hospice is there if they need us. And so it's important to realize, and as we have said on this program over and over and over again, there is a wealth of talent, knowledge, and ability in this area, 50 plus, that's going to waste because you're not taking advantage of doing things. Don't wait for somebody to call you and ask you to volunteer. You call and you volunteer. And Susan will be glad to take your phone call and talk to you about it. Right, Susan?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Jim.
Well, Nina, we're glad to have you with us. You know, it's always exciting to have different people. And another thing, we like people to know what people are doing out there. And as a volunteer, we've had different volunteers on there for different things. We've had one lady who's volunteered at the Olympics twice. She's been able to go to the Olympics in other parts of the world. She's been to Katrina. She's been in New Orleans 2 or 3 times, and this lady is how old? She don't mind.
I think she's probably around 70 or something like
70
that.
something, you know.
Maybe in her 70s.
And talks about volunteering and doing that. And so we're glad to have you with us to tell us what you do and some of the things, how you got involved. And I think that's a good place to start. How did you get involved in volunteering in hospice?
Well, I saw a commercial, and they said they needed volunteers. And an assuring thing for me is my knowledge doesn't have to be what theirs is. I've heard said before that people don't care how much you know as long as they know how much you care.
Right.
And that's what I can come to this with. And Susan and all those at Lourdes Hospice just have so much expertise and knowledge, and whatever Susan, she'll just guide me on what I need to do. And when you were talking about the different things to do, one of the first things we were doing was the Lourdes Hospice fundraiser.
Yes.
And that was driving the truck, transporting the things from the center over to the hospital. And there's just a lot of different things, and she makes us aware, you know, where we need to go or what we need to do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's, you know, and that's important that people know that there's a place for everybody.
We had a Christmas bazaar. Was one of our fundraisers this past Christmas, and Nina was wonderful in helping me transport everything that had been donated from our office, and we had it over at the hospital. So she was one that was there, I think, 5 o'clock in the morning, and they're on the day of the sale. So, you know, those are some areas that volunteers help us out and are always needed in fundraising.
Mm-hmm. Well, and people could donate things.
That's
Absolutely.
what I was thinking. All the things that were made, they
Handmade.
had worked throughout the year. Yes,
Absolutely.
preparing those things. They were beautiful, and so much time was given in the preparation of those. We wanted to get them to where the people could get them.
Absolutely.
One of the things we talked about in training, and I don't know, this may not be the place to talk about it, but you talk about the need for single sheets.
A lot of our patients, you'd be surprised at the people that do not own a set of twin bed sheets in the home.
Right.
So we have fundraisers periodically throughout the year to be able to purchase the twin bed sheets, the knit sheets that will go over the hospital beds. A lot of times they'll have a hospital bed and just maybe a regular cotton sheet doesn't stretch as well, so we'll get the knit sheets and be able to provide those to the families. We're not able to provide them all year long because, you know, we don't have the money to purchase them for every family, but we do provide them as long as we have them in our stock and have had a fundraiser to purchase them.
But that's another thing hospice does. Y'all see that they have the proper equipment that they need?
Absolutely.
That's what I thought.
Yes, if they need any the DME equipment, durable medical equipment in the home, that's something that we order, and we take care of all that and pay for that equipment that the patient needs.
Now, DME, for those of us who are alphabetical soup challenged, comprises of beds,
Yes.
walkers,
Mm-hmm.
canes,
Absolutely. Wheelchair,
wheelchairs.
bedside commode, over the bed table.
Probably even the rails on the bathroom sometimes.
Usually that doesn't come, but that's what the social worker does. If the patient needs that, she will get the resources to get those put in. So, but we all work together as a team and make sure we have it what the patient needs in the home.
I've always said that acronyms are good for those who know what they mean.
That's right. That's right.
And I
For
have
those
to
of
add
us who don't know,
sometimes
you don't
because
know where the hell
Well,
it means.
you know,
I agree, you know.
We always talk about something being easy to do. Well, anything's easy to do if you know how.
Right.
But you know,
Absolutely.
but we don't all know how to do the same things.
That's right. That's
She
right.
fusses at me all the time, and I fuss at her. She'll say, "How do I do this on the computer?" And I'll say, "I just told you 10 times." You know?
Right. Right.
We won't go there.
But you know, and she gets into bookkeeping, and I don't want to touch that. She just finished doing our corporate taxes, so I don't want to even get in that either. But you know, it's true. If you know how to do it, it's easy. And if you've done it 100 times, it's easy. You know?
Absolutely.
You know, but you can learn. I mean, some people have never sat with people. You know what I mean? But they can learn, and it's like you say, it's just being a friend to them.
That's all it is. You don't have to be medically trained. We don't give medicines. We don't, volunteers don't give medicines. They don't do any of the medical part. They're
Right.
just a friend.
Right.
They're just a friend is what they are.
And
So,
that is so important, especially if you're not feeling well, and
yes.
it can cheer you up.
And you don't have to
Absolutely.
do all the talking, do you, Nina? You can listen to them more than anything else.
Yes, and one of the places that what I've done is going to the nursing home. And what I have found, and I'm realizing now, there's some people who are going in the nursing homes anyway. With their church, or they're doing regular visits there. And there are some hospice patients there that if they were aware of it, they could also visit them. And that's amazing. And like you said, just listening sometimes. There's an older lady, and there's so much resources and a wealth of wisdom there. And one of the things it taught us was if there's pictures in there, just to ask about the pictures and the stories they can begin to tell. I know that I'm the one getting blessed. You know, if when I get there, I think sometimes they're taught, you know, you go in to give, but you just come away with so much. And there's quite a few there that unless you go in and see them, they're not going to have just that personal visit.
I know Jeanetta tells a story, and you can tell it, honey, about the time you visited your mother and her roommate.
I told that in class. Mother was in a nursing home a short time, and Mother always loved old people. She would walk to go visit them. She would sit with them. And you know, when she got to the point where she needed to sit her, she didn't know that people don't just do that anymore, that you have to pay them. And so she had a really hard time with that, because we hired a couple of people that were really cheap. I mean, like $150 a week to stay, you know, 24 hours a day except for the weekend. And we thought Mother wouldn't think that was expensive, but she did. She fired her.
Oh my goodness.
It was just, and so finally we had to end up telling her that we weren't paying anything. But that time she didn't know about her
Right.
money, and we had, fortunately she had my sister's name put on her checking account, so we just took the checkbook and Mother even, she would say, she didn't have any money. I don't care what she's talking about. She didn't have any money for that. And my sister showed her one day, she had like $3,000 in a checking account. I don't do that, and I don't know why you would tell me that.
Oh, that's cute.
But you have to realize that they are not the same person.
That's right.
And you just have to accept it. And because the last Mother's Day, I took her a gown for Mother's Day, and there's nothing else much you could get them. And she told me she didn't like it. Mother and her mother, she would never have done anything like that.
Right.
So you can't let that hurt you.
Right. Sometimes you just have to laugh, Yes.
But anyway, when I was visiting in the nursing home, there was this other lady in there with her who almost never had visitors. So we tried to help her as much as we could. But you just couldn't understand her so many times, what she was trying to say. But I said one day I did understand her. She was, I didn't know what she wanted me to do. But the next thing she said, I did understand. She said, just sitting there like a dummy doing nothing. I knew she was talking about me.
Sitting here like a dummy doing nothing.
So you do get some laughs.
funny.
A lot of laughs in the nursing home.
That's funny.
But it's important that people realize that they can bring sunshine into different people's lives, and by doing just different things, just by visiting with them. Now, we're going to take a break here in a minute, and then we're going to come back. And I know you don't just drive a truck, so
Okay.
so we want to talk about some of the other aspects of the work that you do, because what I have found out is that the more we can educate the public as to what is being done, the more interest we'll be able to create in helping and in doing the work. And I've always said that knowledge is very important when we learn about different programs and different things that they do. This program that we do here, the Fabulous 50s, over the years, we have learned so much about what's available for people over 50 in the way of public services. Services that are free or minimal cost, and things that are available. The things that we've had guests come in and tell us, and just to educate the public out there, and we feel that that's been a public service, that we've been able to do that and let them know what's available so that they can take advantage of it. So we want to talk about some other things when we come back, and we'll be right back, so you stay tuned for this announcement.
We didn't have much to give then. So when they showed up, firing them mean looks around the place and staring us down on prices, well, I was angry. Didn't seem to bother my father, though. He had me load another bushel of apples in their trunk. I learned later on that this family was in need.
The greatest gift we give, it's in our heart, what we believe, the way we live.
Caring for others. Pass it on.
And he'd say, go with what you got. Start from where you are. Give it your best shot. Keep reaching for that star. Get in the race, keep your own pace, keep moving and never stop. Just go, go with what you got.
Welcome back. I'm Jim Pollard, your co-host with my wife, Jeanetta. And today our guests are Susan Mason, volunteer coordinator with Lourdes Hospice Program, and Nina Weston.
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 Okay.
Excuse
And
me.
yeah, we want to talk more about how you got involved, other than just driving the truck. But you were talking about in the break, the rewards, and tell us about some of the work.
Okay, something we mentioned a while ago was, it seems like people don't want to talk about dying sometimes. They want to just put it in a box and put it in a drawer, and when the time comes, pull it out. But dying is such a part of living, and I learned more how to live sometimes by being more familiar with the dying process and I think what Susan wanted me to bring out, my husband died a few years ago and died suddenly. And a lot of my family was really just speechless. And I think the Lourdes training that I took helped me a lot personally. And there was a little booklet they gave. It was Out of Sight. And
Gone from my sight.
Gone from my
Yes.
sight. And that, you know, they may not be living here anymore, but they're just gone from my sight. And the volunteering part, I just saw a thing on the news about that when we volunteer, it really does something. Did you say for your blood pressure?
It actually can lower your blood pressure, volunteering and doing something for someone else.
Years ago, my grandmother was at the nursing home, the one that I go to now.
Yeah.
And she would just give me such a clear perspective. I could go in there so bogged down with what was going on in the world and raising kids, and I could just go sit and be with my 93-year-old grandmother and come out of there so refreshed and focused. And I think that still can be, whether it's your grandmother or not, but with someone who has known how to live, and you go in and just be with them.
I read it one time, I heard it said that if everyone had their own troubles tattooed on their forehead, nobody would want to swap.
That's right.
I think that.
We say, well, that person's so much better off. You just don't know. And I have a habit sometimes, people say, how do you feel? I say, well, do you want the truth or would a lie make you feel better?
Right, right.
Because we all have bad days. And as you get older, you have more than...
I learned to say, after Gary died, and people say, how you doing? How are you today? And I learned to say, I am well.
Yeah, yeah.
Because okay didn't seem right.
Right, right.
And fine wasn't, but I am well.
Yeah,
And,
You're making it.
yeah.
well,
Right.
not, you know.
That's good. So that was one of the reasons that you got involved in.
I think so, and I've worked with children most of my adult life, worked with kids at church and at camps. And as I was leaving Illinois, moving down here, one of the last talks I gave, I said, you know, I guess there was a realization in my heart that what I'd been trying to teach the kids was that someday how to die. And I still do some volunteer work with babies and with young mothers, and it's just full circle coming into hospice. And we need to realize that dying is going to be a part. I heard somebody say one time, do you know what the death rate of Americans is? 100%.
100%.
Same as everybody else.
Yeah.
But we try to avoid it and go away from it, but it's going to be part of it. And it can be something very peaceful.
And you know, it's easy for us to accept it as a person gets older, but like you said, when it happens with a younger person. 2 years ago on July the 3rd, I get a phone call at 5:30 in the morning, and it's from my brother, and his grandson had been killed in an automobile accident that night.
Just turned 6.
And just turned 6 years old. And yeah, but you know, being Christians and a Christian family, you deal with it, and you know, and the story that his dad told was that 2 weeks before he was killed, he stood up in church on Sunday morning and said, I know I'm going to heaven, to ask everybody in church if they knew they were. Yes.
So that was dynamite, you know,
Yes,
and then
absolutely.
he was gone. Then he was gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
He'd gone to heaven.
Absolutely.
And it's you know, it's a shocker, and but Robbie took it well and still does. The first Christmas after that, I got tickled. His older sister, how old is she now? She was 8 probably, or 9, and she told her daddy, said, are you going to Nashville this Christmas? And he said, I don't think so. She says, I'm going to Nashville and see the real Santa. So she came up to see us. You know.
Oh, that's cute. The real Santa.
Yeah, but, you know, and I've said that as a result of my role of being Santa, I've been able to shed a lot of happiness and light in a lot of lives. And that's, you know, you just continue to do it. And I do it with adults, too. I mean, adults, that's part of it. I go through a nursing home and people say, oh, there's Santa, and they carry on, and then they just have a ball, you know, with that. And it's a lot of fun. And to be able to shed some light into people's life, you know. You were going to say something like that.
Well, I forgot what it was. But anyway, you know, really, this is what life is about. It's about helping other people.
Absolutely.
It's about, because there's not a one of us that's not going to be down and need help. And, you know, I think when I go in these nursing homes, you know, one day that may be me.
That's so true,
And what if
Jeanetta.
nobody ever comes to see me?
Right.
You know, and so I mean, that's not my motivation for going, you know.
Right.
But we do need to know that one day this may be us.
And we as parents need to teach our children to go and do something for somebody else instead of always thinking about themselves. I think, unfortunately, we have created some children, and including my own, you know, that are self-centered and you just somewhat think of themselves. And I think it's good if we as parents and grandparents can teach younger folks to go and do something for somebody else, that it will bring so much reward to their own lives.
I think my mom had 7 kids, and
Wow.
there was no time that she just focused on herself, it seemed like, and that was not an option. You know, you were doing something for somebody else, and I do appreciate that now, that she taught me that, because I realize not everybody's taught that. And the generation, like you were just speaking of, it is more, and I think it's a term, it's all about me. And it's, as we give to others or do something for others, it just is the way it's supposed to be. And it gets you off that focus. And you may be thinking something, oh, woe is me, but then it just changes the whole picture.
Right.
Because, as he said, you can always find somebody worse off than you,
Absolutely.
Yes.
no matter what's wrong with you, you know. And
Yeah.
that, you know, it can pick you up as well as pick them up.
Right.
And you know, you're right. We do need to be teaching our children that this is what life is about. It's about helping others.
You know, everything is quick, you know, fast, you know, a faster internet, a faster way to lose weight, a faster way to grow your hair. You know, we need to kind of slow down and think about what we really want in life, you know, and I think that's so important.
Over the years, back to working with the kids, I remember taking the girls when they were little, dressing them up in hearts. They were dancing at Valentine's Day. And children can always bring a smile.
Yes.
In any kind of circumstance. It's a real nice icebreaker, and they will just start talking. And I think that's something, taking grandchildren sometimes, because actually they're just through the church. We had gone in and sang to some that were up there, and it was a dear, sweet lady that was a church member of ours. And later that week, she had passed away. So, and she had sang for us numerous times at church. Sang in German, actually.
Yeah.
She was a neat lady.
Well, it's having pastored for several years in South Florida. One of the saddest things that would happen to me is I would get called by the local funeral director to come to a funeral. Somebody I never knew, never met. And I can remember going in and doing a funeral with one person sitting there in the audience.
And that's sad.
That
I mean,
is
that is sad.
You
It
know.
is. Absolutely.
And so, you know, you know, Jeff has talked about his bereavement work and how he always makes it a point to visit the funeral home, and that's part of his work there also. And that's what people need to understand, that hospice, for lack of a better term, is a broad spectrum of services.
Absolutely.
you know, that it encompasses not only the patient, but the patient's family and the expanded family sometimes, and all that's involved. And I think about kids and how that you don't have many children in the program, I know, but some areas do. We was watching a thing on St. Jude's the other day and about the kids that have cancer and everything, It's just sad. But they need ministry. The families need it.
Yes, they do.
You know.
They absolutely do.
She had going into the family, the home situation, sometimes for just a family member to go out, to go to town and have coffee. It is, and to get to witness, to see, as I was there, they'd been married for 40 plus years, and to see him tucking her in and worrying and saying, now here's my cell phone if she needs me. But just for him to get out for a few hours is sometimes where volunteers need.
Right.
There's a wonderful book for Alzheimer's, people who have patients with Alzheimer's. It's called Finding Joy in Alzheimer's. And one story in there that was so touching and just, you know, makes you want to cry. I probably did cry. But this man was giving his wife a shower, you know, and then drying her off, and said, she looked at him, she said, I know that you're a very nice man, but I love my husband. You know, I mean,
That's
just,
precious.
it is.
That's precious.
It is, you know, and, but we can find joy in, he said he cried then. He said not at that moment, because you try not to cry in front of patient. But he says, I cried later, and I've cried many times over that. But that was, and there are things that you can, you know, that you can find joy in, no matter what you're doing.
That is so true.
Okay, we need to remember, call Susan. Those out there who watch, you need to call Susan Mason, the volunteer coordinator for Hospice of Lourdes. And it's important that you see that there is a place for you to do this work. And Nina, we want to thank you for being with us today. Great job and everything. And we want to encourage you out there to volunteer. You know, you need to be doing something. It'll help you get out of the doldrums that you're in also if you'll go out and volunteer and help others. You can reach us, the Fabulous 50s, on the web at the Fabulous 50s, and that's 50 spelled out .net. And we encourage you to do that. And Jeanetta, give them our address.
P.O. Box 7, Bowes, Kentucky, 42027.
Again, remember, use it or lose it.
Can't see as well as I used to. Can't run as far or as fast. Sometimes I think that the old me is becoming exactly that. But when I start thinking of all I don't have, that's when I tell poor me Beethoven was 50 and deaf as a post when he wrote his Ninth Symphony. And he'd say, go with what you